Open world games have been, and likely always will be, my favourite type of games. Whether they are huge single player worlds or sprawling online worlds like that of Star Citizen. Space of course is also one of my most loved settings, so open world space games bring together two of my favourite elements. Now it might sound a bit cheesy, but for me it's very much about immersion, that sensation of being present in another world. Recently, Tobii reached out to me asking if I'd like to take a look at their newest Eye Tracker 5, which is a great addition to immersion within massive worlds. The hardware is actually a very nice piece of kit, so I was more than happy to take a look. This video then is sponsored by Tobii. Do check out the link in the video description to find out more about the Eye Tracker 5, which also includes a 10% discount off the purchase price. So you saw a few clips of Star Citizen with the Eye Tracker 5 at the start of the video, but before we jump any further into that, let's take a look at what comes in the box. The Eye Tracker 5 itself is very slimline and is plug and play. This means there's very little need for extras. The Eye Tracker 5 comes with magnetic mounting plates which you can use to attach it to your monitor. It also has an alternative plastic mount if you prefer to use that. Additionally, there's a USB extension cable for those of you whose PC isn't immediately next to the monitor. The Eye Tracker 5 itself is plug and play. Windows 10 will recognise it when you connect it and install the necessary drivers, and we come back to setup further into the video. First, let's take a look at the fun part. So the Eye Tracker 5 is both an eye tracker and a head tracker. Once mounted onto your monitor, it will be able to detect both the position of your eyes as well as the position of your head. Now, it's all well and good talking about it, but let's see it in action. How does it actually work? So the Eye Tracker 5 supports 6 degrees of freedom, meaning that you can move in any direction in 3D space. Here I am just looking around the screen, looking around the cockpit of the 600i here. Now you can of course set the sensitivity of the tracker. Basically, as I've got it set here, the amount I move my head by in the real world is matched by pretty much the same amount of movement in a game, but you can use smaller movements if you want for a greater degree of movement inside the game. And here we can see the 6th degree of freedom in action. We can lean right into the panels here, just lean forward in the real world, and if you tilt your head, that also is matched in the game. So what this means is that it gives you the perfect opportunity in the game to simply position your body to see things that you may want to see. You just lean forward, tilt your head, turn your head, anything you want, and it will adjust your position in the game accordingly. Feels very, very real. And here we can see the eye tracker component in action. Here I've got my head completely stilled and just using my eyes. As I look at each panel, the camera moves to bring them slightly more into focus. And this of course is absolutely perfect for the interface, such as the Mobi glass here, where as I look around the UI, it just moves the camera accordingly, and again the sensitivity of this can be adjusted. Now, as I started this video talking about open world space games, it makes sense to focus on exploration in this video, along with how the Eye Tracker 5 actually improves the overall experience. Head and eye tracking then is available both when piloting ships as well as when on foot. By default, tracking is switched off when on foot. It took me a while to realise that on foot head tracking and eye tracking actually needs to be turned on. This is easy enough to do though. The options for the Tobii Eye Tracker are pretty extensive. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. So, as you no doubt can see, flying in ships is going to be an entirely different level of experience with head and eye tracking. It's extremely intuitive to use and it's generally very responsive. Eye tracking feels pretty much instant. Head tracking is also very close to instant, with a small fraction of delay between when you start moving your head and seeing the effect in game. One thing that Star Citizen is very good at doing is generating visually impressive areas. Whether this is planetary surfaces, cities, space stations, or even the very impressive new gas clouds, Star Citizen is perhaps the best space game out there when it comes to visuals. When walking around, the head tracking allows you to move your head independently of your body. Basically, what this means is that with the mouse and keyboard you can move around in the regular fashion. Mouse look, of course, in this case turns your body. Meanwhile, head tracking allows you to look around whilst you are moving. It makes it very easy to look sideways, for example, whilst running forwards without having to strafe. It's such a natural thing to do that it almost feels too obvious to point out. But that really is the beauty of it. Natural and intuitive movements add immensely to the immersion, and it really is how things should be. Flying is also a great experience. One thing I liked was how the camera gently pitches and pans based upon what you are looking at. There's no significant movement here, just enough to bring what you're looking at into focus, although this can of course be adjusted to suit your preferences. Ultimately, this is perfect for looking at ship panels and is also very good when using the Mobi glass. Head tracking of course is a great benefit when in your ship. Any long-time viewer of this channel will know that I love exploration in these types of games. After spending loads of hours with this, the ability to look around your environment when in flight is a feature I certainly wouldn't want to be without. Essentially then, there's two aspects to this. There's a very real, tangible and objective benefits that the eye tracker brings. These can be measured in a physical way. The ability to look around brings a vastly improved sense of awareness to the environment. In terms of exploration and general navigation, the benefits to this are obvious. In general, it makes flying much easier. It helps with landing. It makes it easier to squeeze through those smaller gaps or to do close flybys. It also greatly helps with locating specific things in the environment, whether that is mining resources or indeed anything else. How well this works in combat is something I will look at in another video when I've had longer use with the eye tracker. The second aspect then is somewhat more intangible, something that you perhaps wouldn't be able to measure as it's very much a subjective thing. This one is about the feeling of being in a vast open world. That often indescribable sensation of immersion. Naturally, this makes it harder to put into words as it's very much about the experience, the feeling of being present within the game world. Interacting with the game world feels very different when moving your eyes, and the head also becomes a part of the actions within that game world. It's an experience that is hard to define, but one that is very valuable. Right then, we've seen the eye tracker in use in Star Citizen. Let's take a look at setting it up. As I said right at the start of the video, it's plug and play. Just plug it in and Windows will not only detect it, but set up the relevant drivers. Once that's all done, you'll get a little notification down in the bottom hand corner of your screen whereby you can basically install the Tobii experience. Click on this, it will take you to the Windows Store and you can immediately install it. Now, whilst we're waiting for that to happen, we can take a look at mounting the eye tracker on your monitor. Now this is actually very easy. I've used the magnetic strip here that adheres with some sticky backing. It does also remove relatively easy, of course. And once the magnetic strip is on, you can just easily attach the eye tracker to the monitor and that will stay in place for you. Now as you can see, I do have an ultra widescreen monitor, so this works on regular 16:9 monitors as well as 21:9 monitors. So those of you with those types of monitors will probably be pleased to hear that. Now I need to move these little arrows so that they align with the white lines on the eye tracker mounted on the monitor so that it can detect the correct position of the eye tracker. And as soon as you've done that, it will show you your eyes. So basically it's as easy as that to set up. Calibrating is just a case of looking at the dots. We can look at these until they explode. Basically there's 7 dots that we need to look at. The initial one, then 2 sets of 3 after that. Very easy to do. Now this does work when people are wearing glasses. I wear glasses myself and have absolutely no issues with it. You can then create a profile and you can have a whole bunch of profiles on here for different people, as you'll need to probably calibrate it for different people. It's also worth noting here that Tobii recommends creating 2 profiles if you wear contact lenses, one with and one without the contacts. Whilst this isn't a requirement, it can help keep things more accurate. The eye tracker itself also works in well-lit and dark environments. As soon as it's set up, you can see it's tracking my eyes there. We've also got a nice visual representation of my head, and when I move my head, it actually moves the virtual head there. So, like I say, very easy to set up. Let's take a look at some of the settings in Star Citizen. Now, these are accessible in the comms, face over IP and head and tracking options in the options menu. You'll need to enable the head tracking as Tobii, and you can see we've got a whole bunch of other options here. Now one of the options you'll definitely want to pay attention to is the option to enable in FPS mode, and that's right here. We just select a no to disable during FPS. You've also got an option to disable whilst seated if you actually want to use that. And there's yet another option to disable with mobiGlass, so basically you can completely customize it. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of other options there as well. So with this amount of options, what it means is that you can customize the use of the Eye Tracker 5 within Star Citizen to suit pretty much any playstyle you can imagine. As we scroll further down, there's also some sensitivity options. We can control the sensitivity of the pitch and the yaw, for example. And we've actually got the ability here to calibrate the head tracking as well as the gaze tracking independently from each other. So very nice stuff and very handy. So then, that pretty much brings us to the end of this video. Do check out the links in the video description. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.